do it.
You can do it.
You can do it all night long.
I think that's officially Rob Schneider's like most famous movie at this point.
Is it really?
I don't know. I mean, that's also the movie that had like the smallest part in, but it's probably also the one that gets him the most recognition. So.
Probably.
That's his only line in like 12 movies.
Yeah,
that's true.
I can't even lie. Like the Deuce Bigelow movies are pretty funny. They're pretty good.
Pretty hilarious.
As horrible as they are, they're still
decent.
The European Gigolo is not as good as the original Gigolo. No?
Agreed.
They tried.
Agreed. And the one-liners that came out of the catchphrases that came out of that, like, I can't.
It's a huge bitch.
It's not too small. It's too thin. If you painted it silver and twisted it, it could be a kickstand.
And
anyway,
there goes monetization right out the window.
Yep. Down the drain.
We're losing out on that $20 a month we make on YouTube. Woo!
All right.
If that, it might even be like every 3 months. I don't even really check it anymore.
Nice.
But look at that. Kevin's already here.
Excellent.
Man himself.
Of course he is.
Noah, Rob, Jenkins, Monsieur Kirkman, the whole crew.
Sir Ivory. We are here. It must be Monday because this is episode 183 of Snakes and Stogies as part of the Herpetoculture Network. Let's see. Get Gerson to break out his Vinnie Bar Baroni off the bat.
Hey.
You don't keep rhino rats? We have a never-ending debate as far as which one's better, Bear and I or rhinos, and I'm firmly in Team Rhinos.
Kevin is referring to a TV show called Welcome Back, Kotter. That was probably not seen by you guys since you are much younger than we are.
Yeah, I got the reference, but I didn't know what the correlation with you was.
That's Kevin. Maybe throwing a couple back. I don't know.
Hopefully.
You mean like Vinnie Barbarino?
That's what he's referring to. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Yes. Well, regardless, this episode is brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. Check them out. Facebook, Instagram. Use the code THN at checkout. Save yourself a little bit of money. Get yourself a rack. Get yourself a cage. Phil has him some. He keeps venomous in them. I don't have venomous, but I keep a lot of stuff in mine.
Yes, locking sliders, key lock sliders with no lip like a Vision and no bar, no jeweler's display case, a built-in lock with a twisting key. Check it out.
And no ledge for them to like predator your ass.
Yes.
From above.
No death from above.
Yeah. Anyways, awesome stuff, awesome racks, awesome cages. You can't go wrong. You will not be disappointed. 2-week lead time. I mean, come on.
Don't get better than that.
That's right. You can also use the code THN at checkout on fullvisaapparel.com. Get yourself some shirts. Hoodies are still not up. It's my fault. I'm slacking. I'm sorry. Look at that. Methpropeltis. Not even one. That's been a really hard one to explain to people.
Dude, I didn't get it.
Such a deep inside.
Well, it's because you live in the dirty South where meth is more prevalent than my neck of the woods.
At this point, though, I feel like it's just about everywhere, man.
I mean, it is, but like when that commercial was out, come on.
True. Fair enough.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. Get yourself some shirts. Black Friday sale is going to happen. It'll be good. And then Puget Sound Pythons. Check them out. Give them a follow. Facebook, Instagram. Follow them on Morph Market and see what they have for sale. My wife is leaving. I love you.
For good or just temporarily?
No, just temporarily. She's not leaving for good.
Okay. There's a difference sometimes.
She's not leaving me. She's got to go check on a dog. I want to get a Getula just to irk Smitty. Oh, don't do that.
Do it.
We gotta I think I explained to Jake on THP, like I'm not scared of Getula.
Okay.
I just don't, they're not trustworthy at all. Like there's a reason I stick to the Texas stuff. It's just, they don't play the games that Getula do.
Dude, I went into my fiance's room last night at her house, and you walk in the room and you just get that like I didn't turn a light on because like I had walked and I had stuff in my hands, and you just get that feeling like you're being watched. And I flip the light on, and the Florida King is literally like on the glass, like just tongue flicking.
Glad it wasn't between us. I'd kill you.
Yeah, right. I love that snake.
They're wild. They even have the sort of the tweaked out eyes, especially.
Yeah,
it fits. It's perfect.
I love it. It's good. You know, if you want to feel the buzz, but not like you're on meth, but just feel a good buzz and have some effervescent aromas, tantalize and dance on your palate, don't forget to check out Cold-Blooded Caffeine.
Use that link down below. Get yourself some coffee. Get yourself some accoutrement to make coffee. They're K-Cup pods too, actually. I've tried them. Those things are legit way better than regular K-Cups. Like,
excellent.
So much better. And it's because they have like something ridiculous, like 30 or 40% more coffee than a regular K-Cup pod. So
excellent.
And they're biodegradable to protect the earth. So,
Yep.
It's cool. We have to make we gotta get in touch with Trey and make our stuff happen. So
we definitely do.
Set that up this week. What are you smoking this evening?
So this evening, I reached into the deepest, darkest regions of the humidor, and I found an old Gurkha estate selection. And this thing's got to be at least 9 or 10 years old. The cellophane was beautifully ambered. It's a naked foot. And then I feel like it was maybe too old because when I went to cat eye cut it, it just ripped. It just tore.
Disintegrated?
Yeah. Oh, no, it didn't disintegrate, but it definitely like fluffed out a little bit. But I kind of fixed it a little bit, and I'm sure saliva will help. And but yeah, it smells great, and the cellophane was literally like looking at a scene from Jurassic Park. So we're rocking and rolling. What about you?
So we've got some new stuff in at the shop, and I have Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust Red Meat Lovers, which I have not had before. I specifically waited to grab this.
And that band, I love that band.
Well, so apparently his spiel with this line is like they're supposed to be smoked like after you have or during like a steak dinner or something. Like it's meant to be paired with steak in some fashion. I don't know. There was a guy that lit one up yesterday in the shop, and it actually smelled really good, like very different from sort of your typical stuff. But
spice without having a spiciness.
I don't know. It not necessarily like Kentucky Fire Cured type smoky, but it definitely had a smokiness to it. So
nice.
I don't know. We're about to find out, but I got to get the soft flame out on this one.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. So what's new on your home front, Smitty?
The draw on this is really tight. Oh. It's got a closed foot? What?
There you go. That's why.
No, I mean like fully closed. Like it's not even cut.
Really?
I'm like, damn, there ain't nothing coming out of that. What the
Oh, there you go. Do you have a straight cutter to fix it?
Yeah.
We know it's going to happen. It's going to splinter the minute you got it. All right. There you go. You probably could have muscled through it, but it probably tastes a little funky.
No, I'm a professional.
You are a professional. Certified. I will say this, the naked foot on this burned real quick, but maintained its shape, and the draw was normal, nothing to cry home about, but the overall aroma was very inviting, and it's got a really nice rich blue smoke. So I'm on it. I'm liking it.
It's surprisingly mild right off the rip, but we'll see.
It's because you didn't enjoy a nice piece of flesh.
I mean, it's also probably because of that closed foot done got me all jacked up and confused. Yeah. I've never seen someone do that before.
Well,
that's
maybe
dumb
it was,
as hell.
Maybe it was a Friday at 5 special.
Maybe. I don't know, but nothing really new on my end. The Ackies are going to a friend here in the next couple weeks, so that'll free up some space and hopefully make life a little less chaotic here.
Are you donating the enclosure, or are you going to keep it for something else?
No, I sold them the enclosure too.
Okay, cool.
The pair with the setup.
Nice.
Until I sort of get a game plan for that Jansen eye cage that we had talked about. Somehow connecting to where we can have 2-level type deal.
Yeah.
Ironed out. But other than that, everyone's doing good. I got some corns going out to Kasiki tomorrow. That's about it. Getting everybody prepped to start cooling stuff down here later this month. I'm hoping the weather continues to remain the season it's supposed to, and
excellent.
Keep the ball rolling there. What about you?
Well, I have had a good week with a bad week. Stilettos didn't eat, which I thought was interesting, and I'm wondering if it's a temperature related thing or maybe humidity related thing. They've been going good for a while, and then they just didn't. So that raises a red flag to me.
As in, you think they're too hot, or you think they're too cold?
I think they're too cold.
Okay.
I think they might be too cold with not enough humidity. I feel like if it was more moist, they would be under the dirt, and they're not. They're sitting on top of the soil, which is also kind of weirding me out, but we'll see what happens. I had a super cool interaction with my African garter. I went to go feed her, and she lives in her black plastic hide. Like she just lives in there. And I usually throw a couple live fuzzies in front of the door, and she just shoots out, grabs it, sucks it back into the darkness, right? Kind of king snakey.
Yeah.
Well, this time I opened the container, and she's like almost, I don't want to say basking, but for lack of a better word, basking on top of the hide. And I kind of look at her, and it's so deceiving because I've only worked with a handful of them. They've all been relatively small, but they've never really been like, I'm an elapid, you know what I mean? It's always been like super mellow, just kind of like, I'm a dirt snake, I live my best life. So she's sitting there, and she looks up at me, and like, this is where like that, I mean, there's dumb cobras and there's smart cobras, right? This is where like that smart cobra clicked, right? And she looks up at me, and like I see her pupils dilate, and I was like, what are you gonna do? Like, are you gonna bolt? Are you gonna freak? Like, I know she smells the mice.
Like,
yeah. So of course, what do? Like any responsible venomous keeper, I pull out my cell phone, right? And I got a cool, maybe 30-second interaction of me just standing there, just filming her, and her kind of like coming up and being curious. And I let her kind of come up on the rim of the tub and kind of let her like slither a little bit. And like, obviously I had a hook under my armpit. I had another hook leaning against my leg. So like if she was going to bolt, she ain't going anywhere. But it was just a really cool interaction where it was like, okay, human, you fed me. It's been like 6 months. We're cool.
Maybe you're not gonna eat me.
Maybe you're not gonna eat me, right? She's finally looked like she has some weight on her, which is good. And then I threw in the 2 fuzzies that I was planning on feeding her, and she looked at me. She looked at the fuzzies, looked back at me, and then cobra tagged both of them and just sat there and watched them die. And I was like, oh, this is so rough.
Just reminding you,
dude, that's what it felt like.
Like, don't forget.
Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. It was like I don't want to anthropomorphize. I don't. I mean, for all I know, she was not even cognizant that I was standing there, but it was definitely got that vibe, right? And then as soon as I like kind of put my phone down and like kind of stepped back, she just went down and just grabbed one of the fuzzies and started eating it. So I put the lid on the thing and I put it back on the shelf, and that was it. But I thought that was really cool because, I mean, I've been watching her, for lack of a better synonym, a couple times a week for at least 5 months, maybe 6 months, and I'd never seen any interaction like that. I mean, she's been out like basking and stuff, and like the minute I open the thing, she just slowly slithers back into her hide or slowly slithers under the water dish or something. But this is really very unique scenario, so we'll see what happens.
Robert asked if there was any truth behind using wooden matches to light cigars. Yeah, you get more flavor. It's burning cooler, so you're not burning the tobacco, like as odd as that sounds. It burns way cooler than torches do. So overall you get a better flavor if that's what you're kind of going for. Really, any soft flame is what you're looking for in that regard. But I have matches. I keep matches in my car as in case I don't have a lighter type deal, but I usually don't use them unless I absolutely have to, because it's almost always just slightly breezy enough to where I have to strike at least like 10 of them just to get a cigar lit. So,
well, or you do what I do and like you hold 3 of them together. You know what I mean?
I haven't even done that. I'm not even smart enough to think of that.
Yeah, you hold like 3 of them together, and then one of them is slightly longer. So you strike one, which in turn will ignite the other 2 or 3. That's been my trick. So I did enough drags on this estate to burn through that naked foot, and I'm getting some of the wrapper, and it's spicy, man. It's
kicking it up.
Yeah, it definitely was like, all right, good binder, we're good, and it was like wrapper, cha-cha-cha.
Just like the garter snake. I'm here.
Exactly.
Is there any reason why they're called garters? Do they superficially resemble American garters?
No, I think it has to do with the lattice-like pattern or the lace pattern on some species. I feel like it was and there's a lot of theories to this, whether it be African or North American garters or even Australian garters, right? It's kind of a name, and it's almost like like regional dialect. Like it was garden, then it turned into garter because it looks like a lady's garter, and then garter stuck, but people still call it a garden because it lives in their garden. I don't know. I'm sure there is someone I'm sure has done the definitive etymology of the common name, but that's just been the name. So, and I like African garters way better than North American. Sorry, all you garter snake keepers.
Thamnophis nerds.
Dude, Thamnophis is awesome, man. They're super cool. I've kept them, but just not for me. Not for me.
Well, this week I'm pretty pumped to be joined by Aaron here, Mr. Aaron Gerson of the Forked Tongue.
Welcome to the show.
We've been following him for a while, so I'm sure there's many of you also have been in the loop as far as what he's doing. So
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, man. It's good.
Been too long.
Thamnophis are psychotic at times and something else. Yeah, so if you follow Aaron on Instagram or Facebook, I think he's kind of most known and centered around eyelashes and eyelash vipers. But after talking to him a little bit back and forth over the last couple of days, he's kept a lot of stuff over the years. But I mean, we'll kind of get into how you got to where you are currently, whether you want that to be the short version or the long version. We leave that up to you. What you're currently working with and why you're focused on what you're focused on.
Well, it depends. Do you want your viewers to sign off now, or do you want them to sign off later? Or
oh no, they'll stay for the long haul, man. They're very what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say nosy because that sounds bad, but they're very enthusiastic to hear the backstory.
Okay. Well, I guess I have one probably similar to others. I am just a street kid. Grew up in Miami, and became fascinated with reptiles, similar to, I'm sure, you and Justin. And I couldn't get enough of them. Every opportunity I had, I was always trying to find the next snake or the next lizard. And it was a typical Miami type situation back in the 90s and the 80s, where you had to have your Burmese python, you You had to have your Nile monitor and Savannah monitor and all that big stuff. It wasn't like it is today. Now you can pretty much get anything you want. But it just evolved from there. I moved to North Florida when I was about 17, and with all the reptiles I had to go to school, and I started working for one of the biggest corn snake breeders in the United States, maybe even the world at the time. And I learned so much over the years about corn snakes, and I really got into corn snakes and colubrids in general. And I was keeping so many colubrids, corn snakes, king snakes, milk snakes, just anything under the sun regarding colubrids that I can get my hands on, I would. And I was breeding them very successfully. Leopard geckos too. I got into bearded dragons, Argentine tegus, Colombian tegus, just everything that I could possibly get my hands on at the time is what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until maybe about 20 something years ago where I saw a snake that pretty much changed the trajectory of my life, and it's been different ever since. And of course that's the eyelash. And there's a big difference in getting into venomous than non-venomous, as Phil, I know and it's definitely a different scene, a different way of keeping. It's a different lifestyle, but it's been an amazing experience the past 20 so years keeping hots. I was breeding other non-venomous reptiles very successfully and consistently. I was a huge green tree python guy. I was talking to Justin about that not too long ago, and I came to the conclusion that the real estate of a green tree python versus the real estate of 10 eyelash vipers is the same. So I had to make some very difficult decisions as to where I wanted to go. Yeah. And I started doing venomous, and I haven't looked back. I miss, and I still love, and I will always have a place in my heart for, certainly corn snakes and tegus and green tree pythons, but I just, as I grew up and I had more responsibilities and I had children, I had to make some difficult decisions and decide where I wanted to go, where I wanted my focus to be. And eyelash was it.
That's awesome, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I was friendly with a guy who had I'm in Florida. We have to have, we have to be licensed here, as you know, and we have to go through a series of hours and training to apply to the government to get our permit. They come and inspect and all that kind of stuff. And it really wasn't until I was over at a friend's house, and he had just come from a mutual friend of ours in Central Florida, and he showed me these little yellow tiny worms in a little deli cup, and it was done. I just,
that was
from there on,
that's all it takes, man. All it takes.
All it takes.
Yeah.
And I didn't know in what aspect, how it was going to work. I knew I had to get involved. I knew I had to have these things. I knew I had to keep them and see what they're about. And I've been doing that for the better part of 20 years.
It's awesome. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
And has it been in that 20 years, like primarily just eyelashes? Because I saw some pictures going back on your Instagram, a ways. I saw some squams and looked like some monocles and some other odds and ends. But has the bulk of it been schlegs? The
bulk of it has been schlegs. It's 20 years ago. It was a different time. You just couldn't get the things. They just weren't readily available as they are now. We had king snake, and that's really about it. We didn't have social media. We didn't have the classifieds. We didn't have those things. So whatever you can get your hands on at the time, it was certainly word of mouth, and the one or two classifieds that we did have. So I I was trying to feel my way. I had some white lip pit vipers and did some Asian stuff, some trigons, and I was very successful with Venustus. I think a lot of the Venustus that's probably in the trade right now may come from what I was breeding in
That's awesome.
15, 17 years. Yeah, they're beautiful. They're gorgeous. I love tree vipers. I love squams. I played with squams for a bit, and then I got into cobras. I kept some monocles, and I was successful with them. And I really got into spitalaps for a while. And
yep, I remember seeing those.
Yeah, which are, I mean, it's got to be the cutest little baby cobras that there are. And I was successful in breeding. I think, from what I understand, first in the States, the anery version of the spitalaps.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but the problem still existed. I had to again make that decision as to what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And my time is very valuable. I work. I have two kids who I love to spend my time with, and I really need to narrow it down and focus on what's really important to me and what pulls at my heartstrings, and it begins and ends with the eyelash viper. Always has.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, that's cool. So I kept on breeding them and keeping them. I couldn't. People wanted to buy them, and I wouldn't sell them, and they get mad at me because I just wanted to keep them all. And that's just how it's gone down, and I don't have any regrets in those decisions. I certainly miss a lot of the snakes that I used to keep. There's nothing like walking into your snake house and hearing a 7-foot Eastern Diamondback rattling at you. I mean, there's nothing like walking in and seeing a blizzard cobra, hooding up at you, the monocled. But for some reason, when I walk into my snake room now and I cut those lights on and I see just a rainbow of all different colors just squirming around their cages, and it just lights up the room for me. In my eyes, there is nothing better.
That's cool, man. That's very cool.
I mean, from what I've seen overall, I mean, in relation to other arboreal species and other venomous in general, they seem considerably easier to work with and lower on the level of drama to be expected, from some of the more high strung stuff.
Yeah, I would agree. They're not very forgiving. One of the things I tell folks a lot is who are trying to get into eyelash vipers, it's not like, you can throw the snake in a cage and leave it there and not pay attention and not care about the temps and humidity and things like that. They're very, very unforgiving snakes, especially as babies. Babies are very brittle, and getting them started can be really tricky, but still very fruitful in my opinion.
So what's the current collection? I mean, how many are you at currently? And
Justin, I'm at too many. I'm at too many. It's really turned it. What is too many when we talk about how many snakes we keep as keepers? You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know the answer to that question.
Too many is when it is affecting you into a point where you either don't want to work with them, you don't want to go in the room, you don't want to deal with it, or B, you're noticing favoritism, or you're noticing certain animals are, I don't want to say being neglected, but you're not as attentive to certain ones as you are to others. Those, to me, when it gets to that point, there might be too many.
Well, I guess you just justified to me that I do not have too many, so I appreciate that.
There it is.
Yeah. So that means I can keep the 80 or 100 or 120 babies that I have this year. I'll just hold on to all those and put
do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
It's no problem.
That's the worst. That's the worst part, is when you are infatuated with the species that you keep and you produce, that you don't want to let go of any of the offspring. It's the worst.
It's the worst. It's a problem that I've had. I mean, really, it's a problem. Yeah. My girlfriend she's like, well, people are always hitting you up. for these things, and why don't you just sell the ones that you don't want and keep the
Right.
ones that you do? And I'm like, Katie, I want all of them. That's the problem. I want to keep all. I love all of them. So I do move some every now and then. I give a lot of stuff away to good friends of mine, and I'm not very into the financial aspect of it. I never have been. If I can get my rodent bill, reimbursed, some way, I'm happy, because as you guys know, rodents these days are, not
And
what
that's the best way to look at it, man. Like, as if you're doing it for a business, that's one thing, but like people who breed for the enjoyment and keep for the enjoyment, like, yeah, if you can pay the rodent bill, rock and roll. If you can offset the electric a little bit, rock and roll. But it's so much more rewarding when it's not about, I don't want to say making a buck, but for lack of a better word,
keeping it in the black.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't enjoy it if that's what it was about. I've always been into just research and education and advancing the species, and letting other folks, hopefully sharing with other folks what I have been so passionate and what I have loved so much over the past 20 years with this species. That's what I enjoy doing the most.
How has I guess your care, but also care in general, how has that changed over the course of that 20 years for that species? Because that seems like one that, I don't know, were they ever are they still imported or no?
They are in certain facets.
Okay.
Depends on who you ask.
But
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It always seems like one of those species that a lot of people have, but it's just kind of something they have on the side. It's not like their main focus. It's just,
I mean,
I got a couple eyelashes.
They were imported a lot, but the problem is nobody took the time or the care to focus on them, in my opinion, at least stateside. Europe, that's a whole other thing.
Whole other thing.
Yeah. So how has all that changed over the 20 years for you?
Well, here's what I can say about that. 20 years ago, going back to the differences between now and then, there were a couple of us keeping them, but it wasn't like, I mean, there was no literature. You couldn't just look up on the internet and see how to keep these things. Michael Berger wrote an article in Reptiles magazine. I think that was back in maybe 98, if I'm not incorrect on that year.
Was that the venomous issue with the golden eyelash on the cover?
Exactly what it is.
Yes.
Yes. It was the Bible for me for the longest time, because there was nothing else, out there. And we even told him recently that I always appreciated that. And he wrote another great book recently that you guys should get.
I have that. It's great. It's a great book. Yeah,
it's great.
Nice.
But a lot of it, unfortunately, was like anything else, was just trial and error. I mean, no one really knew how to produce these things and keep them in captivity successfully, at least no one that I had any contact with. So it was a little difficult. And I was keeping them how I thought they needed to be kept, which was very, very basic. And it wasn't until I visited a guy up north who kept eyelash on a larger scale, that my eyes sort of opened and realized, a lot of the things that I was missing in my collection. And once I did that, just, everything kind of changed. And you realize that, they're not very complicated snakes, but they do require certain things, and the things that they require are not difficult to achieve. But I know that if they are neglected, if any of those things are neglected, you will fail. They're very unforgiving, as I mentioned earlier. So they don't like extreme fluctuations in temperature. The humidity has to be right. Airflow is huge. People always ask me how often should I mist? How often should I do this? And I'm like, well, it all depends. I mean, what are we talking about here? Where do you live? What's your humidity like? It's hard to answer those questions generally. So I have been basically keeping my eyelash vipers the same for the past, I'd say maybe 17, 18 years. And again, I've been pretty successful at it. I've consistently bred them, I think now going on 19 or 20 years every year consistently. I don't know if anyone's done that. And I'm not trying to sound arrogant by saying that.
That's a fantastic accolade, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
for whatever I'm doing, it seems to be working right. So if it's not fixed, it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
What was the early process and sort of getting that dialed in, like for breeding those successfully?
As far as just breeding them?
Yeah.
Again, it was just a lot of trial and error. And, again, coming from a colubrid environment,
right.
I'm like, cool, let's cool them down in the wintertime and let's put them together in March. And, let's do the same things that we were doing with colubrids, which there is some similarity there, but eyelash vipers have a wet, dry season. And the funny part about it is when I put most of my eyelash vipers together to breed is not normally the time of year that they breed in the wild. So they don't necessarily have to go during the season in which they do in the wild, which is kind of interesting, I think, because I'm in Tallahassee and we get very, very cold here and we get very, very hot here. And where they're from, obviously, is just not that way. They're more cooler than they are warm. Surprisingly cooler. That's one of the things that did surprise me. People think that you need to keep them hot with spotlights and this sort of thing, but it's not the case. Up in that cloud forest, it is very, very cool, almost cold. So and the other species of Bothrechus are even worse. I mean, some of these things live in the 50s and 60s, and people don't realize that. And they get them home and they cook them. And I've heard horrible stories, and people call me and they say, what happened to my snake? It died. And I said, well, how'd you keep it? It was 88, 90 degrees. I'm like, well, you cooked it. They can't tolerate those those high temperatures. So again, trial and error, and I just dialed it down to what works for me. I don't really know what works for others in other locations, other states. But for me, it's been the same plan, the same system for a while, and seems to work well.
That's good stuff, man. Good stuff.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you letting me share that.
Yeah, of course. I think that you're actually, in my opinion, having kept a handful of them over the years. And by the way, I'm in South Florida. I'm down in Boca, and our humidity is similar at certain times of the year, but you have the benefit of actually having pseudo seasons.
We do.
So I mean, I don't keep tropical stuff anymore. I'm almost completely an arid and desert guy, but that was one of the biggest issues for me, was you getting the temperature down, but keeping the humidity up. And I feel like you have the benefit of, I mean, not to Fish and Wildlife's not listening, but to pseudo, quote unquote, metaphorically open a window, you know what I mean? Have that seasonal cool air. I feel like that's a huge benefit to you in what you do. I do.
Absolutely.
Location.
Yeah. Nothing is better than going in the snake house and opening up the window and just feeling the fresh air. The snakes they're so happy. I mean, you could just tell that they're happy. I've never had problems with feeding. I've never had problems with disease. I've never had problems with unwillingness to breed or produce. I've just been very lucky in that regard.
So is there a particular locality or phenotype that you favor, or do you try and have a wide assortment of everything?
That's a great question. I've been asked that question before. It's like, who's your favorite kid, right?
Yeah.
I have always been partial to what they call the pink ones. I don't know where that name. I guess they have a pinkish hue to them, and they're very variable. It's hard to say one is my favorite, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be that one. And folks tell me that they know my snakes when they see them at a show because it has this or has that. I don't know if that's a feel like that's true. I don't know, but it seems like I do have a mark on the stuff I produce. But I do have a wide variety of pink ones and yellow ones and green ones and purple ones and what they call tiger, which seems to always be popular in the trade, and ones that I can't describe some of the colors and patterns of the things that I've produced over the years. I just can't. And
yeah.
What I love so much is when someone who was able to get one of my animals from 5, 7, 10 years ago, and they send me a picture of it today. I'm like, whoa, can I buy that back from you right now? I mean, because you don't know what they're going to look like, and but I tend to keep a wide variety of them. I never really know what's going to come out, which is one of the best things about Schlegs. The genetics are a little, they're a little funny,
to say the least.
But I'm trying to dial down on some of that genetic stuff. One of the things I've been working on, and I have like 20 years of notes, and I hope one day I can put ink to paper and maybe come up with something. But to answer your question, I really love my pink. Love them.
That's cool, man.
I love the really like those gold ones with sort of the higher white.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to lean more towards that lichen color with the pink accents in it, and I think I'm with you on that one. Like everyone always had Christmas tree. That was the thing. Christmas tree, or golden with no pattern, no flecking, no tipping, no nothing, which was always crazy to me because you would try to find those animals, and it's almost like they didn't want to be all one solid gold color,
And there was a time where those were not sought after. I mean, there was a time back in, I'd say 15 or 17 years ago, where I could not give those away. I mean, the solid, people wanted the peppered, people wanted the tigers, people wanted the pinks, and I'm sitting here with a bucket of these solids, and nobody wants them because they want the pattern stuff. So then I start producing all this pattern stuff, and then now everybody wants the solid. So that's why I try to keep a variety, and hopefully keep everybody happy.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it is amazing how now that we have the technology that we have, iNaturalist and Google Earth and all these apps and all these amazing abilities to be more worldly in our hobby and in our community and everything. But you look at the habitat, man, and some of it is spot on camouflage, and then you see like the golden, and you're like, how does that blend in? Well, there's a flower on the other side of the tree that you can't see that's the same color, and like that amazes me. So my next question to you is, have you become a plant guy as well because of the eyelashes?
That is another great question. So the short answer is no. However, my girlfriend is very much into plants, and I told her that I want to just have like, pothos and all these a variety of stuff, and people have tried to get me to do these what do they call them, like bioactive enclosures, and I've never really been into that before, but I'm not opposed to it. So one of the things I'd like to do is I really would like to get more into the natural setting, at least for some of the cages, and try it out and see how that works.
That's great, man. That's awesome. Yeah. That's cool that you guys can feed each other's passions. That's fantastic. I love it.
Well, she's worse than me.
That's good. And to be honest, what I've done in the past is, because I do not have a green thumb in the least capacity whatsoever. When I was keeping tropical stuff, I would buy the pretty bromeliad or orchid or whatever from Home Depot, but then I would also go to the arts and crafts store and I'd buy the same plant, fake silk, because I knew that I was probably going to kill the plant and at least I'd have the fake one to keep the cage going, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, look at those animals. Oh man.
Yeah.
Anybody who's listening to this on your commute to work tomorrow, mark the time so you can go back to YouTube and look at these animals on the screen. You will not be disappointed.
Is that are they sexually dimorphic size wise?
They are.
Yeah, that's what like that phenotype right there. Just with the, it's the same like with my Chlorecus. I really like the Chlorecus with the high like the yellow bars, like the really heavy yellow bars on them.
Yeah. I tried to put a nice variety. That's Skittles right there. That's her name, Skittles. Try to put a nice variety of different colors up there for folks to see.
I like this like Porthidium phase here. You got.
Yeah, she was not too happy getting her picture taken, obviously.
And it's amazing how some of them look like textured, and then some of them just have that velvety look to them.
Yeah.
Jenkins wanted us to show some pictures. So.
No, it's a fantastic idea, man.
There's a picture of a baby like seconds, like born seconds ago that you just right there on the left there. It's one of my favorite pictures. When I walked in and saw that, I thought that was the coolest thing. His mom's up top there, and the baby's just wrapped up in her egg still, and I think that's so neat.
Yeah, it's incredible, absolutely incredible. And to be there for that, that's just so it's so meaningful, you know.
It is. I hate when I'm not here. I hate when I can't witness the babies.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things in the world, and I just can't stand it when I can't be there.
And then you got your Proto-Bothrops version there.
No, for sure. For sure.
It's like an Ophrey and a Jerdani had a baby.
Oh yeah, click that pink licheny one in the middle.
Oh, I picked it.
Oh, that's good too. Almost has a Equus kind of pattern to it.
Mm-hmm.
A little saw scale-ish. I like that.
My eyes. See this, I haven't seen anything striped like this before. You know?
Yeah, that's super cool.
Like, that's
Weird.
wild.
Yeah, no, well, yeah.
Was that something that just popped up sort of randomly?
That was a random one. Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. I mean, look at that. Like, I would take that over the solid stuff any day.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That thing's killer looking.
Yeah, I'm working with some really interesting lines. A lot of different lines over the years I've been working with, and some of the stuff that comes out is just, I don't know, even I'm surprised by it. I never thought it could be like that. I never thought eyelash looked like that. It's so. It really is the greatest days are when I walk into the snake house and I look in and I see babies swimming around everywhere. It makes everything worth it to me. Until I start feeding them, and then I start cursing myself. Look at that. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, so I like with that. Do you wonder is that like a hypomelanism possibility?
A great question. It very well could be. The genetics on these things, they're so unknown. To me, it's certainly possible. I don't know what that is. It doesn't fall into any of those like buckets of yellow, green, whatever. So it's just, oof, there you go, right there.
Yeah, man, that stripe is killer.
Killer.
Absolutely awesome. And it has that Venustacy head to it. Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, I love that girl.
Got some boa action too. Look at that.
Yeah, my girlfriend is really into boas, and she's got some beautiful, beautiful boas.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that's she's my favorite right there.
Look at all those things, man. Little worms.
Little worms.
Are those come out about the same size as squams?
I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say so. Maybe. Yeah, give or take. Give or take.
No, I didn't even know Phil left. That slacker.
Something I said.
I don't know.
Yeah, go get some sunglasses, Phil. There.
You good?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was letting the dog in. He was barking at nonsense outside. So
Gotcha.
shove his fuzzy butt back inside.
It
Yeah,
strikes me as far as the genetics go, it seems fairly reminiscent of Amazon's. You know, well, I'm sure there has to be heritability to some degree or another, but it also, you know, I don't want to necessarily use the word polygenic because I think we're kind of at a point now with Amazons where maybe people don't believe that's the case entirely anymore. But
it's
yeah.
I've bred two, yellows together and gotten primarily greens. I've bred two greens and gotten primarily yellows, a yellow and a green. I've gotten, yellows, tigers, greens, and pinks in the same litter. So it's really difficult to understand how it all works. Because I would love to sometimes say, all right, I want to get this year. People will email me or they'll message me and say, hey, can you take this one you have here and breed it with that one? And I really like to get some of those babies, and because I want ones with red banana-y, polka dotty, stripy things going on. I'm like, look, it's kind of.
I wish it was that easy.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And sometimes I just walk in there, during breeding season. I'll walk in there with my girlfriend and be like, what do you think we should put together this year? And we'll just pick mostly random. I don't normally breed the same female 2 years in a row. That's just kind of a rule that I have. I feel like they're the longevity of the animal is a lot better. It's obviously a lot of stress for live bearers. So males, different story, but
what's as far as feeding goes, sort of overall, are you keeping it fairly the same? Are you changing it up and getting babies established? Sort of what's your process with that?
I haven't changed the feeding schedule in years. I have a very strict rule about that. Depending on the size of the snake, however, some eyelash vipers will come out and they are ready to go eating small pinkies.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to me. I mean, just yesterday I was feeding one. It looks stupid. But the pinky was weighing the snake to the other side of the cage because the pinky weighed more than the snake itself, and they look ridiculous. But sure enough, it may take them half an hour, but they can get a whole pinky down. And some ones a struggle. Of course, you have to go to parts, and every 5 or 6 days religiously, you feeding babies. You miss a day, and bad things can happen. They go down really quick.
Yeah.
Usually from dehydration, but lots of times from lack of food also. My adult breeders, I don't feed as often as other folks do. Overfeeding eyelash vipers, you're going to kill them. I guarantee you're going to kill them. If you don't kill them tomorrow, at some point, they will die, and they will not live a long life if you continue to feed them, fatty rodent foods. It's just they don't eat those things in the wild, and you just have to control. They'll get obese very quickly. So babies, 5-6 days the most. Yearlings once a week. Once they get well established, I reduce feeding maybe once every couple of weeks, once every 3 weeks, depending on the size of the animal. And I'm in no rush. And this is what I tell people all the time. I said, I understand that when folks get a pair of snakes, the first thing they want to do is they want to power feed them. They want to get them big and they want to breed them and have babies. And I get that. Believe me, I get that. These are not the type of snakes to do that with. It will not work out. You have to be patient. And with me, that's the name of the game. If you don't have patience, these are not the snakes for you.
Yeah. Especially with establishing feeding.
Yes. It can be grueling. And when you're sitting there and you have, if you have one or two, fine, whatever. But if you have 150, you have 200 babies. I'm not saying that's what I have. I'm just saying hypothetically, if you had 200 babies or whatever it is, and you're just sitting there, you're like, oh my God, it's so overwhelming. And you're trying to get them all to feed. You have to have some resilience and patience to get it all done, because they will eat. I've never once had a baby eyelash viper refuse food. I've always been able to get them to eat. Never been an issue for me.
Yeah. And that's with just tease feeding, or are you scenting as well?
I've never scented. I've always teased. Always.
Excellent.
I've never done anoles, never done lizards. I've never done anything but rodents ever.
That's cool, man. That's very cool. I used to teach the venomous handling class under reptiles for a long time. And back in, I'd say maybe like 2007, 2008, something like that. Somebody dropped off a whole litter of, or it may have even been 2 litters of eyelashes. It was probably like 20 or 30 snakes, and none of them had eaten yet. They were days old. And back then, the technique was to get a 1 quart plastic deli cup that was like, Chinese wonton soup container, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vertical. You would put a piece of that fake wire vine across the middle of it. You'd pour like 2 inches of water at the bottom and then air holes in the lid. And that's how we kept them. And we used to tease feed them, pinky heads, pinky parts, whole pinkies, whatever. And then they would just poop in the water. Every other day you dump the water, and that was just how we did it. And that was the last time I ever really interacted with baby eyelashes. How is that different than what you do? Because I feel like although it worked, it probably was not the best technique.
Yeah. I don't, to me, I don't like the idea. And this, I hate saying this because I know a lot of folks keep their, babies this, certain ways, and they're very successful. I don't really feel comfortable keeping any animal over water. Water is their substrate. It's not something that I do. One of my good buddies in the Carolinas does this with his schlegs, and it works out well for him. And it's just not something I've ever done. I don't get it, and I don't necessarily have the discipline to go in to look at every single baby every 5 minutes to see if one of them has defecated or urinated in the water. And that's, we don't want to. It's like our toilet, we don't want to do.
And that was, and I'm with you 1,000%.
You guys don't drink out of yours?
Yeah, right. No, I'm with you 1,000%, because if it wasn't at the retail store where we were working every day, and before, like when we opened the store, I would look in there and see if there was poop. Before we left, I would look in there and see if there's poop. I can't necessarily do that at home, so I probably would have never done it like that at home. So, sorry, I'm hijacking this. Continue, please.
I'm very maybe a little obsessive. There isn't, maybe, I don't know, a few hours ago by when I'm home, I'm always inspecting. You never was like 101. You never want to have a dirty water dish. You always want to have the animal has to have access to clean water. And what I've never understood is if you're using the entire cage as the water dish, then the odds of it, having waste in there is 100%. That's where it's going to go to the bathroom. They still go in their bowls sometimes because it's in there.
Right.
But you change it out really quick, and I think it reduces it. It's not how I would recommend anybody to keep them. Not to say that folks who do keep them that way it certainly can't be successful. It's just not my thing. But I am very simple. I'm very simple when it comes to babies, particularly. Access to fresh water always. Misting always. Can't have a wet cage. can't have a dry cage. So you have to find that balance. Some will not eat. Some will not drink from water bowls. Some will drink from spray. It's not common, but I have seen them sometimes refuse for whatever reason water. I have one out there now. It's a yearling, and I just, for whatever reason, I cannot get her to drink from water. Just so one of us is always going out there every couple of days and just spraying, and she literally drinks right from the little nozzle of the spray.
Wow.
The spray nozzle. So
It's odd.
Yeah,
I've got some chondros that are like that. Like if I spray them, they'll drink like crazy. I've got others. If I spray them, they hate it. They tuck their head. They want nothing. Like it's just,
absolutely, yeah.
It's very
Weird.
odd. It's such an individualistic thing.
Yeah, it is. It is. Sometimes they strike. They just don't like the water at all.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder in the wild, if they're just sitting there in the wild and it starts to rain, they start striking at the rain. I mean, it's a really weird thing. Clean cages is very important to me. It should be. Tree vipers they're very susceptible to certain things. So I just gotta have clean water, gotta have a clean cage, and I think very basic stuff for them to climb on, roost on, and drink. Airflow is very important.
I wanted to ask you how you had it set up with ventilation to where you were getting that not wet but not dry sort of medium.
You got to find that balance. It's not easy. It has to do with the humidity that's outside, the humidity that's inside, temperature outside, temperature inside. It's just you can't have an eyelash sit in a wet cage. You just can't do it. I mean, you could spray it, and you could. What I do sometimes is I'll have one cage that I'll dedicate to like a rain chamber, and I'll take the animal out. I'll put it in that cage, and I'll just rain on it, let it do its thing, and I'll take it out and put it back in its cage where it's nice and dry. So you kind of gets the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
But a wet cage, too wet will kill an eyelash real quick.
Do you find? I mean, is it like skin related stuff that they're more susceptible to? Is it respiratory? What's the?
Yeah, RIs for sure. Yeah.
As far as adults, like what size setup are you using for those? Are you keeping pairs together? Are you keeping them singly? Sort of how you got that?
Well, I keep every snake in an individual cage, and I never pair any of them unless they're breeding. And something happened, not the year before last. It's the first time in however long it's been, 20 years of breeding, that this has happened, where I had two snakes in one cage to breed, and I went out the next morning and I had one big snake in the cage.
Ooh.
And I was just obviously heartbroken. I mean, the male was a male that I produced like in 2003, one of my oldest males, and he was just a screamer, and he was
man.
He would knock it out of the park year after year after year. Some of the prettiest babies that you could possibly imagine. She ate them, and I've never seen that before. Damn. So they will cannibalize each other if kept long enough, and they don't have enough space. So I've always kept them in individual cages to avoid that. I only put them together when they're breeding, and sometimes I watch them. So because since that happened,
yeah,
I'm a little hypersensitive to it. So
of course
I watch them pretty close now. And I'm a smaller cage type guy. I don't think that they need. I would love to have 50, 75 gallon type situations where I could put each, but I can't. You can't do that. And I believe that eyelash likes smaller, confined spaces. They feel safe. They feel a little bit more secure. I've been pretty successful with those smaller type cages, like exoteric cages or screened type cages, things like that. You want that heavy airflow. You don't want Tupperware with 3 or 4 holes in it, like I've seen folks do. You gotta have that airflow.
Yeah. I can't remember. It might have been the Baltimore Aquarium, but I remember there was a zoo type facility that I visited, and I can't remember which one. I think it might have been Baltimore, but they had a eyelash viper enclosure, and it was probably 60 or 80 gallons, but it wasn't a fish tank size. It was more of a rectangle cube, if you will. It's vertical cube. And it was this beautifully planted jungle scape, and there's this tiny little snake in the corner. And I remember asking the people that the
Clinging to
zookeepers,
dear
like,
life to the mister.
yeah, well, they're just chilling in the corner. And I remember asking the zookeepers that we were there, because we got to talk to friends of friends and whatnot. And they were like, yeah, that snake has never left that perch in 2 years. It just, that's it. It just sits there. And it just goes to show you that, like, it found its little nook, its little secure nook, and it just stays there. So I totally get what you're saying.
And in the wild, it's amazing what they will rest on, you know, as far as when they're in the bush. I mean, the tiniest little twig, the tiniest little leaf, they just find a balance and they just sit there. Like it's unbelievable. It's so bizarre to me. It's so fascinating. So
that leads a segue to my next question of, have you seen them in the field?
The short answer is yes, I have.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
One of my favorite things to do actually is to find them in the field. It's the first one I found. It was like
it's life altering.
I know it may sound silly to some, but it was emotional.
It's life altering, man. It is. Yeah, and when you finally see the habitat of the stuff that you're keeping at home, you know, you may not change everything that you're doing, but you're definitely going to alter some things in one way or another and adapt it to make it just that much better. And now you have a full grasp, maybe not a full grasp, but you have a grasp on what it's really like there. And you can have, I mean, I don't know if this sounds cocky, but like self-validation, like, I knew that's how it should be kept. And there it is. Yeah. It's amazing. It was what, you know, I love going out and seeing them. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I love herping in general. And I'm lucky enough to live, you know, 20 minutes from the ANF, from the Apalachicola National Forest here. And I got a herping buddy who's, you know, one of the best. My friend Sean, he's the authority on goanni, on Apalachicola king snakes, and we go out and we have a great time. And it's awesome finding EDBs, and it's awesome finding king snakes, and it's great. But when I was able to, you know, seeing eyelash vipers in the wild is just, I can't describe it.
Yeah, it somehow makes you love that species more, because
it does.
Like, I can't exactly tell you why, but like when we went to Southwest Texas and stuff, and like being in Baird's country, I mean, we didn't see any Bairds, but I don't know, there's just something about, maybe you just get a better appreciation for them, knowing sort of what they're living in, of course, and through on a regular basis. But I mean, I think it was the same for Casey when he went out to Alice Springs and found Brettles and stuff. You know, it's like, I think he kind of came back even stronger after that trip, sort of with a better.
I completely,
way more data too.
Us being in the Davis Mountains and going out to Arizona and the Sky Islands and seeing how the lepidus were being in the wild I completely changed my setups. And now I feel like my lepidus are just that, my clobber are just that much better because I saw the dirt that they're sitting on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was foolish in thinking, oh, I'll just do this, I'll do that. No. It's totally different. Now I know, and I have that much more appreciation for it. Even something dumb like when we were going out to West Texas, our buddy Rob Stone, he's like, he says, lepidus they don't ambush down, they ambush up. They hunt up. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, they'll find a flat rock face that's at an incline, and they'll position themselves to strike up the rock face, not down it, because the lizards are basking at the top of the rock. And so I went and got some fake rocks and some real rocks too, and I made them at the appropriate, 25 or 40-degree angle, whatever it was. And sure as hell, all the lepidus started lining up vertical. And I just little things like that, man. I can't imagine you being the Schleg guy that you are and seeing them in the jungle, in the cloud forest like that. I can only fathom how passionate that must have been.
It's amazing. I mean, nothing makes me happy. I mean, I love my family. My family will always come first. My profession, but if I ever get a chance, I always take it to go see him, and nothing makes me happier than my girlfriend and I were just walking in the middle of the Latin American jungle, just exposed to those elements and looking with headlamps and flashlights and walking up on fer-de-lance, and seeing just stuff that you just never see, and then in the distance just seeing a little speck of yellow and wondering, is that one? And the closer you get, the more you realize that you just found one, and it's just nothing better.
That's awesome. That's so cool, man.
It just makes me think, man, with the babies in particular, because that's a species that is successful across its range. Like anytime I see people taking trips to Costa Rica or anywhere that those things are native, like they're finding them. I don't think I've ever seen someone go down there in country and not see one at some point or another. And with the babies and stuff, going back sort of to feeding and sort of versus the natural history of them, like you got to wonder how often those babies are eating, considering how dense the biodiversity is in these areas. There's how many species of Anolis are there just in the same range, and however many other possible lizard prey items, hummingbirds and possibly even, I don't know, are they eating insects in the wild as babies at all? Is there any documentation of that?
No. Nothing more. No. Frogs and lizards. That's their main
frogs. Yeah, I mean, Jesus, the number of frogs that are
Yeah.
down there too. You just, I don't know, like you really got to wonder. Like even adults, I'd imagine they're probably eating pretty regularly. Like,
one we found recently. It was a beautiful yellow, and the size of it was maybe, I'm guessing 3 years old at the most. The size of the prey item, which turned out to be a frog, that was in the stomach of this snake was just unbelievable. It was probably 4 or 5 times the size of this snake. It was unreal that how they consume predators there.
That's awesome. That's fantastic, man. And to be able to see that, I can't fathom it. Like I don't even keep a man, and I know the feeling that you're speaking about, and that like makes me so happy for you. You know what I mean? That's awesome.
I appreciate it. I love sharing it. I'm glad I got this experience to do that, because I talk to very few people about this who share this passion, and there's just something about that species that I just can't get enough of.
It's good, man. It's good.
I want to get down to Costa Rica bad, man. That's like one of my top 3 herp spots. Probably the third one, behind China and India. And because I kept dart frogs for a while too. Like I want to get back into them at some point as well. But I would love to go to Costa Rica. There's just so many things that would check so many boxes for me down there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful there.
And see, I've always been apprehensive because I felt like, and this is going to come off dumb, I know it is, but I always felt like that was the easy way to go. Like that was the easy spot. It was close to the United States. Like everyone goes there. It's like I don't keep the species. Like I'm not just going to go per se. But then the more people I talk to, I mean, even someone like Mark O'Shea admits that Costa Rica is like herper mecca, because it's just so much biodiversity and so many different species, and everything is gorgeous and exotic. And I get it, man.
Well, I also want to support a country that's seen the value in ecotourism and really embraced it and sort of dove head first into it and being like, we actually have something here. And instead of, letting it all get bulldozed for whatever bullshit reason,
right.
They're like, let's take advantage of this and use it. And I mean, it's also nice to be able to go to a country and not have to worry about getting murdered. And it's close. It's comparatively travel wise, it's pretty inexpensive.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's being a sort of a lazy herper that I am, it seems like a good spot.
Yeah, and I also love the fact that if you're going with a significant other who is maybe not as apt to herp as much or as hardcore as maybe we do, or friends, you go with a group of friends and one or two want to go herping, the rest want to just stay back at the hacienda and have some beers or something. Like, there's the beach, you got two beach, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got the Pacific and the Caribbean. Like, it's fantastic. So
I think just the fact too that you don't even have to really go that far from wherever you're staying to find stuff too. It's not like you're having to go, it's not like Texas where we got to drive 8 hours to get to a certain mountain range.
Yes.
It's all sort of right there.
Yeah.
And that's, if I ever get to do one of those cigar factory tours down in Nicaragua, I'm going to have to ask the people, be like, can I look around a little bit?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, I know you guys got some good stuff around here somewhere.
That's what we need to do. We need to plan a snakes and stogies trip down to Central America and just tour some tobacco plantations and do some herping, man. We got to do it.
Count me in. I'm in.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I don't know how they I know. So like some of the companies, they have a property sort of on the farm that people stay at for these tours and stuff. It's like a several day sort of thing. But I know a lot of them are usually, there's armed security around too for a reason, because Nicaragua is not the safest place. But I wonder if you could be like, hey, can someone like babysit us while we go poke around?
Yeah, even if we did like
property
even if we did like a day trip in country, like, you know what I mean? Take a bus or a train or something and just, I think that'd be cool, man. That'd be awesome. You imagine being on the tobacco plantation and then finding schlags like in the tobacco fields? Like, that'd be crazy. I don't think the elevation's right, but I can have delusions of grandeur.
You want to go high. Go high.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Have you kept any other species of Bothriogus?
No, not. I dabble a little bit with Supras, with Superciliaris, but the other species are a little more difficult to keep in the environment in which I keep schlags. They're very montane, at least the ones that I like, and I love them all. Marchi, Orpha, bicolor, Nigroviritis, lateralis, but I think they require much cooler temps. I mean, some of the Nigroviritis in Costa Rica, especially, and in Panama, when you go up to see where they live, I mean, it is not uncommon for it to be 50, 55 degrees, 60 degrees up in that cloud forest. And, any temps higher than that, they do not do well. They will get, RIs, and they will roll. So maybe one day, if I can get, different snake houses with different climates and things like that, but it's a little difficult. I wouldn't mix those two environments. Eyelash tend to sit more the lower elevation,
right?
And the other ones are a lot higher. Not to say that eyelash are not up there as well, because they are up there.
What is the average elevation of eyelash?
Oh, man, I'll probably get this wrong.
I mean, like 6,000 or like 10,000?
I love.
Oh no, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that high. Yeah. Maybe 1,700, 2,000, something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's still good, man. It's still high.
I believe that's what it is. Yeah.
Higher up than you and I live.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, very cool, man.
Yeah, even going to Texas, it was like, this is weird being above sea level somewhere.
Yeah. Well, it's like we landed at 2,200. It's like all of us are lowland people,
Like a short walk up a hill and we're gasping for air because there's no oxygen up there.
Yeah. Well, it's like when we were herping North Florida, and we were actually by your neck of the woods, Aaron, and just outside Ocala National, or Osceola National, excuse me. And I was like, yeah, we should probably hit those sand dunes over there. It's higher elevation. It's Palmetto Head. You could see that it is a higher elevation. And I think Nipper pulled his phone out and he was like, 6 feet. It's 6 feet higher than where we were just standing. And I was like, that's higher elevation, man. It's Florida.
That's a mountain down here, buddy.
That's a mountain. These are some foothills.
You ever see anything over at the Osceola?
Dude, it was tough, man. We
went
saw
on like the coldest weekend.
it was like 46 one morning, and then it rained, and then it got in the 70s in the evening, and we found a bunch of amphibians. It was a great trip for amphibians, but we found double the snakes in Ocala than we did in Osceola. So yeah, we hit a couple cane brake spots, and just a lot of traffic, man. Just a lot of vehicles, and like just people driving and commuting, and like trying to find suitable road cruising roads in Osceola seemed to be more, I don't want to say difficult, but it was definitely going to be harder to find stuff in Osceola than it was in Ocala. So
the best thing about Florida. I mean, I love North Florida. I mean, I love South Florida too. You know, as a kid growing up in the Glades, you know, finding king snakes and roughies and cottons. I mean, it was a blast. But you know, up here, you know, getting out in the ANF to me is nothing like it. You know, I love it.
Yeah. I'm personally trying to find every species of reptile and amphibian in Florida, and it's something that I've started this past year. I mean, obviously I've been herping my whole life, but to really put focus in on it, you know what I mean? And I basically realized that y'all up in the Panhandle, that's a whole nother world. And there's like 30 species of salamander I got to go up to your neck of the woods to find. It's a daunting task. So I feel like I'm going to make a couple day trips here and there. I got to do some keys stuff, but yeah, man, I can't fathom seeing a goini in the wild. Like I'll cry.
So that's an interesting subject. Another one of my little emotional experiences of finding something was when I found goni. I mean, it's you know what, when I started to get into colubrids, the Appalachian king snake was right there. I mean, it's one of my favorites, and we always learn that they're not there anymore, that they're gone, and people have just either over collected them or they died off. It's just not the case. I mean, they're there, and they are a sight to see. When you find them in the wild, they are a sight to see.
Yeah, man. I can only imagine. And are you at liberty to say what county it was in?
I'm not.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm not.
Nice
but I will say that they are, you know, in Leon, they are in Ocala, they are in Liberty, Franklin. They're all over.
They're there.
Why did they think they weren't?
Because nobody was seeing them, man.
Nobody was seeing them.
Yeah, it's disappearing. And I know that there was a good, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, but like there was a good 10 years from like 95 to 05 where like only a handful were found, and it was only in the national forest. And people were like, I found one, take a picture, let it go. And that was it. But now I think people are starting to become more cognizant of the land that they have in terms of agricultural areas and cow fields and just people's private acreage, you know, hunting leases, you know. And I've actually seen guys in North Florida, anywhere from north of Orlando all the way up through Pensacola, where they may not be a hunter, but they'll get in on a hunting lease with their friends, and then they have, you know, 500 acres for the entire year that's basically theirs to herp. And they'll tell the hunters, hey man, I'm going to go lay some tin. I'm going to put out some carpet and some plywood, you know, don't put a tree stand over here, you know, or better yet, if you're shooting, I'm going to be looking for snakes over here. And I feel like as that has, I don't want to say evolved, but blossomed, I feel like that's why a lot of people have been finding more and more of them.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, is kind of great, because down by me, people are finding less and less Florida kings by me. And I'm pretty sure it has a lot to do with agricultural runoff. I think it has a lot to do with road traffic and just putting in paved roads and construction and fixing levees and fixing drainage easements. And I'm less and less king snakes, man, every year down by me.
Yeah. Sucks. It really sucks.
Mm-hmm. So, but that's awesome. You're right in there, man. That's good stuff.
Appreciate it.
How did keeping, because being fairly similar in terms of, size and similarities, squams versus eyelashes, sort of what was the major differences that you saw, and did you find one to be more difficult than the other? Because squams, I don't know, after hearing you talk about eyelashes a little bit, it sounds like squams are probably a little more resilient to things. Is that?
Yeah, I think so. And again, I'm certainly not the authority on the Theris or particularly squams. I have kept them and I do love them. The ones I've kept seemed a little more hardier than some of the baby eyelash. They seem to eat, they're not as finicky. But again, maybe the ones I've had are just that way. I'm sure maybe some squam folks might disagree with me, but I think they like it a little warmer. Coming from where they come from than eyelash do. But when I kept squams, I kept them, in similar type caging, similar, branches, water, hides, things like that, similar substrate. They do well. They're beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like squams specifically. I won't say they're hardier. I'll say they're more tolerant to.
They have more margin for error.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You have more margin for error. Yeah,
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
That's good.
That's how I've explained green trees to a lot of people. It's like they're not difficult snakes at all to keep. Like they're probably one of the easiest. It's just you don't have as much room to kind of screw around and do stupid stuff with them.
Yeah, they're more forgiving than an eyelash viper would be, pound for pound.
One day, man. I don't know. Right now, I think I'd be happy with some pygmies. I've kind of settled on that for whenever I do get back into venomous. I think some pygmies would scratch that itch.
Nothing wrong with that. I love me some pygmies. We have aneries up here. We can find them.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah,
so
Duskies.
Cool.
Duskies for days up here.
Duskies for days. Just going back to king snakes real quick. Our good buddy Chris Sanchez is in the group chat. He says #more kings, less condos, which I love. I also forgot to tell Justin that Chris was in a bit of he broke up a bar brawl last night and happened to be wearing a Fulvius Apparel t-shirt. Nice. And the Fulvius Apparel t-shirt was pulled upon very aggressively as he attempted to break up this brawl. And not only did it not rip, but it did not stretch that bad either. So kudos from Chris. He texted me this morning to tell me that.
Good job, Gildan.
Yep, that's it. So sorry, go on. Pygmies. Duskies for days.
Duskies for days. I like that.
For days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It was cool seeing I've seen Duskies in a friend's collection that were in like Northeast Florida locality, and then I've found countless by me, but I had never seen one from like Central and like Ocala area. And dude, the color difference from me to there, and I can only imagine the color difference to you. I was super impressed in how visually variable they were. I mean, despite still having the basic color palette and the basic patterning, but just the oranges. Like I feel like down by me it's more rusty reds, and up in Ocala it was more stark oranges, maybe even dare I say a pinkish hue to it. I thought that was super cool. What do the aneries look like?
Dark.
Yeah, I was hoping that I could find one. I know that Justin's on my Instagram. The one that I have is this really weird. I wish I could find a picture. I'll have to send it to you. It's one of my girlfriend's favorite snakes I have in the collection. I mean, it's amazing. I have thousands of eyelash vipers out there, and she picks the snake that we can find 10 minutes up the road as her favorite. But
that's cool,
a really cool motley type stripe anery thing. And so I like Duskies. Duskies are awesome, but I've always been partial to the aneurystic ones for whatever reason.
Sure.
A guy called me a long time ago out of Polk County, and he said, "Hey, I got this Dusky at my doorstep." And I remember driving. He sent me a picture of it, and I'm coming to get it. And I couldn't believe it. So I drove all the way to Polk County, grabbed it, took some snaps of it, and they are beautiful. They're one of my favorite things to keep, and as far as terrestrial snakes go, and find here in Florida. And I don't know. My buddy Matt Cruz is on. I don't know if he's watching, but he promised he was going to take me up to Georgia and the Carolinas to find some Carolina pygmies, because boy, I love those too. I've kept several of those in the past, and still have a couple out there. They're real nice.
That's cool, man. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have yet to see one here. Jake, they cruised. They were out in Okeechobee Hunt Club area doing some road cruising, and they came across a really big, probable female that had just been hit by a car that they had passed 2 minutes prior. And that's the first pygmy he said he's seen in our area in 7 years or something. I just think we're just too close to the coast for them.
Can you see that? I know you can see that.
Oh, that is super cool, man.
Isn't that sick?
That is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's just black and white and stripe and motley and a Baron.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
The as far as sort of going off a little bit, but corn wise, I mean, how crazy is it? How far corns have come since you were more involved with those?
I can't keep up.
It's insane.
Yeah. Like I think I mentioned this earlier. I worked for a big corn breeder in the 90s, and we were doing 3,000 to 5,000 a year, and I thought that was crazy. And nowadays, I mean, it's just like a drop in the bucket for what some folks are doing, and crossing into these morphs and this that. I'm not a really morph guy. My favorite corn snake is the corn snake that you find in your backyard. That is my favorite. I appreciate the other ones. I'm happy I was a part of it. I'm honored that I was able to name one of the morph corns that's out there. But to me, the most beautiful corn is just natural wild corn. And some of the things I see at shows, I mean, I appreciate them and I get it, but it's just not my thing. I'm more natural than some of these other folks, and I'm not knocking them at all, and not one bit. But that white and black checkered belly and those orange saddles, the black saddles, man, that's where it is for me.
Here.
It's come a long way. It's come a long way.
Yeah.
When I was into corn snakes, there was you had your albinos, you had your anneries, you had your, I don't know, whatever. You had your candy canes and your butters and your caramels, and it was very simple. You had annery type A, annery type B, and now it's just, I mean,
It's wild, man.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. And everything I knew about corn snake genetics in the 90s and early 2000s, which was extensive at the time, is just completely blown out of the water.
Yeah, I can relate.
That's been the hardest, the biggest struggle is being able to stay focused on certain things, be it locality stuff and the handful of morphs that I am very much into. There's just so much now. It's really, really, really difficult to keep the blinders on, and stay focused to the handful of things, because there's just so much out there that just looks so damn cool. It's even compounded when you're dealing with pattern morphs and color morphs being two separate things, and just the infinite combinations. Because when I was a kid, breeding corns with my dad, which is circa 2000, 2001, it was the same thing. It was there really wasn't a ton, and then coming back into them, 10 years later, 12 years later, it's good God, what happened? Where'd they all go?
Where'd they all go?
It's crazy.
Yeah. It is, and it's a little sad to me because I really did enjoy it back then, and to see where it's this kind of a double-edged sword. I'm glad that people are advancing these things and getting corn snakes out there to people who love them,
It's
and
still
I'm
there.
all for that. Yeah, all for that.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I
Switching
do
gears.
appreciate good locality stuff though. Like if there's something to really appreciate about natural corns, it's that even natural sort of as nature made them. There's something for everybody in all the various localities and stuff. If you like the Miami stuff, then you have the South Mountain stuff. There's something to fit the bill for everybody.
There's certainly it's when you start integrating them into snakes that are not corn snakes is really where that kind of draws a line for me. I'm not really much into that.
Yeah, we're with you on that one.
Yeah, not knocking anyone. It's just a personal preference.
Yeah. Well, what about these beaded lizards? People in the group chat want to hear about beaded lizards.
Beadeds, yeah. Well, amazing lizards. So I got into heliderm maybe 15 or 16 years ago, and then it was sort of part of that these difficult decisions I had to make about real estate because having these 4 and 6 foot vision cages or whatever in my snake houses, and what I can do with that space when it comes to eyelash is just it's incredible. It's like 20 to 1. But I did work with some real nice exasperatums 15, 16 years ago, and I love them. And unfortunately, I got out of heliderm. I kept some Gila monsters as well, and got out of those too. But about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, a buddy of mine had some really nice hortum. There were these super blacks that everybody loves. I mean, real nice quality stuff. And he was sort of getting out of reptiles, and he offered them to me. And since I'm a glutton for punishment, I said, yeah, sure, let me take them. And I raised them up and bred them, and I've been producing these beautiful black shiny beaded lizards ever since. And they are very fun. They're very cute. They take up a lot of room, but they have personalities. They're very fun species of lizard to work with. I think I'd rather take a hit from a schleg than not eat it. But they're gorgeous. I love them.
And they fit the Cloud Forest vibe,
They do. Yes. Yeah, they stay in the same snake house, same environment as my schlegs. They love it out there.
Did that group come from John?
Came from Steve.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, fair enough. Well, that's awesome, man. That's cool that you got the montane lizards, got the montane tree vipers. I love it.
Yeah.
Those little beady, watery eyes.
I know, right? They always have the puppy dog eyes. Those little
they ain't got a thought behind them.
The Puss in Boots eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Gnarly lizards, man. Like they're all adorable and stuff. Then you see the head skeletons, the skulls, and it's like Jesus.
Yeah.
They can pack a punch, and they really.
How big's your biggest male?
It really sucks. I was thinking to myself right after I fed my biggest male last night. I regretted it because I was just going to pull them out and just hold them up and show you. Yeah. We'll have to do this again, and I'll do the podcast from the snake house. Yeah, and you'll be able to see everything the next time we do it. But I was going to do it. But he is a big. His name is Monster.
Nice.
He's a big, gnarly, jowly beaded lizard. He is cool, man. Super cool guy.
That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah, man. They get that head on them. They get that tail, and like they climb trees like crazy, right?
Crazy. People think that they're only terrestrial. That's not true. Yeah. That's not. They spend about, I'd probably say about 80% of their life underground, but the other 20% they are up there climbing in branches, no doubt.
Yeah. Did you ever get now I can't remember his name. Dan Beck's book.
Of course, absolutely.
Dude,
I got the first day it came out. I got
yes. So the pictures, if like people who are into Gila monsters, they see a lot of Gila monster, like quintessential Americana, Western folklore, all that. But I got that book specifically for the Gila, for the beaded stuff, because I wanted to learn more. I had no idea, like the habitat and the size, man. And some of the photos in Beck's book are incredible. Just the scale, holding him against his own body, you know, wild.
Yeah, they're
Awesome.
very, very cool. Yeah,
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Smitty's supposed to get some. He is.
Don't know where I put them. Like, I don't have anywhere to put them.
Well, you're getting rid of the Ackies. That's their space right there. BlackBox to the rescue.
That would require if I was going to do those, because I saw the ones that Reed had, and I was like, they're not huge, but I was like, I just don't. If I was going to do them, I want to do them right, man. I want to get them in something sizable and with the climbing options and things like that. And like currently, I don't have anywhere to put something like that, because it would be in the garage, like without a doubt.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have anywhere else to put it. You know, so
I'm still going to push you to do it. So
I mean, I still want to. It's just one of those things where it's like I got no space. This garage has become a freaking catch-all for garbage.
Well, you got that. We always said how you should get rid of the backdrop behind your head right now and just do two nice Vivs stacked on top of each other, one for a male, one for the female, and just call it a day.
And just open up the door and let them.
Yeah, let them go for a stroll. You're on podcasts. You're watching them. They're not going to go anywhere.
I don't know, man. That's still. I don't care how tame a lot of heliderms seem to be from pictures and things. I just don't know that I'd be that trusting with them.
Can't be.
Yeah, you can't be. You can't
see people just holding them and passing them around, and I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah. And that was one of the things. Like, I had a friend who had a Gila that he hand raised. The thing was a legit puppy dog, and he made the mistake of feeding it a prey item. What's that?
A hand?
No, he was feeding it a prey item on the countertop, trying to, like, I don't want to say show off, but, and he tosses the prey item. It slips off the counter. He reaches his hand out to catch the prey item, right? The frozen thawed, mouse, whatever. Only at the minute the mouse lands in his hand, so does the Gila's mouth. And it was crazy. He said that the Gila knew that it bit him, realized, oh wait, I just bit the human, not the mouse, and let go. But he still got a full hit, and that was a wild ride watching him take that. So
I got a buddy recently who took a hit, and it was not pleasant.
Yeah,
it's a
baby or adult?
Big one.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
It's like your only saving grace is that you're not going to die. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the only thing. You just got to keep telling yourself, I'm not going to die. It's going to suck, but yeah, can't trust him.
Ride the wave.
Ride the wave. Yep. That's what I do.
What are you like? Even with your bigger ones, like what are you feeding them, and what's your schedule like on those?
They're eating huge ass rats. I mean, the big adults. I mean, they're just smashing them. Sometimes I think it's too much, too big, and it's just not. And my neighbors, we all have chickens around here, so we have an abundance of eggs, and It's not common where I'll just take a bunch of eggs, crack them open, and let them all go to town. For adults, maybe once a week, maybe 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
That's always worked for me. Babies more frequently. Babies, man, these things, the babies, they love to eat. I mean, if you fed them every day, they would eat every day.
Yeah.
They're so ferocious. But I mean, I think this last clutch I had, they're probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months old or something like that, and they're eating like full size mice, that type of thing. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's great. On the when you feed them eggs, do you give them shell or no?
It's funny. They don't. No, at least in my experience, they will eat around the shell.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's but my same thing too. Like
yeah.
I'll scramble up the raw egg and make like a little egg milkshake, and they'll just drink that.
Yeah.
And I'll leave shell in there, and they'll like tongue around the shell. Like
It's bizarre.
It's bizarre. I mean, it's almost like they just know, like, I don't need to eat that. I don't, you know?
Yeah.
So that's good though, man. It's cool. Good stuff. Good stuff, man.
If I could have more stuff, I would love to have more. I mean, listening to Kevin talk about, you guys talk about barons and all this stuff. I mean, if I had the time and maybe when I retire one day, I can expand from eyelash to other things, but there's a lot of stuff out there that's just awesome and beautiful and fascinating, and just the herp culture in general has come such a long way from when I first got started. I'm a little older than you guys, and I love to see where it is. It's really come to a nice place.
Hell yeah, especially with guys like Kevin.
Oh yeah,
that guy he's a saint.
Love he and I go back. I knew him 7-8 years old. Went to high school together.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's great, man. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, he was a jackass back then too.
That's good. That's good. That's awesome, dude. Small world, right? It's crazy.
Oh yeah,
crazy.
Well, if you were gonna expand into other venomous stuff, like what would be the top of that list? What would be the first thing you'd go back to if you were?
If you mean if I can have access to anything or stuff that I've had in the past?
Both.
I miss some of my big cobras. Big monocle, big, just head to tail, pure white, pink eyes. They were very, very fun to work with. I really enjoyed them. Babies are super cool to work with. But I'm such a arboreal guy, by nature. Venustus, Cryptolytrops venustus. I don't know what it was, Trimerosaurus. I think now it's Cryptolytrops venustus. I enjoyed working with those very, very much. They were very, very fun. So I miss those a lot too. And I really would like to get into some of the other species of both Ricus if I just had the different climates to do so. Bicolor is a favorite of mine. Guy. Even Lateralis, I love, but it's not easier said than done. But terrestrial stuff, there's nothing like a big EDB. Those are real cool, and I get to see those in Florida. Where if I just want to go out to the forest and see them anytime, which is always a fun thing. I love rattlesnakes. I always have a soft spot for rattlesnakes, and of course some of the Aspidolaps cobras. I love those too. And it's so hard to say. I mean, there's so much out there, and I've enjoyed working with so many of these amazing reptiles over the years. And again, if space wasn't an issue, if time wasn't an issue, I would have all of them. But you just have to. I knew a long time ago I was going to have to make that decision as to where that focus was gonna be. And as much as I love those other things, and I love those other snakes and lizards, just had to pick eyelash. But I would love to expand to other tree vipers in the both Ricus genus. If I had to pick, that's what I'd love to do.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I have zero desire to keep any lapids really. But like that smaller arboreal stuff, smaller montane croats. I don't know. I gravitate towards smaller species overall. I don't know what it is because it was the same with dart frogs. Like I love thumbnails. Like I like tinks too. I never kept any, but I had thumbnails, man, and those were awesome. And it was because like they didn't take up as much space. They were just less to have to devote, room wise. And I know that if I dove headfirst into venomous stuff, it would definitely be that smaller, arboreal. I think I have zero desire to keep any mambas. I have zero desire to keep any cobras. Like all that fast, wiry stuff. I just don't.
I had mambas. I couldn't sleep at night. I mean, not to knock mamba people, because mambas are awesome, but just not for me.
Yeah, that was one of those genuses where I would walk over to do the cage, and I would just be like, oh, I don't want to do this.
It's over with. Yeah.
And it's like, that's why I got rid of them.
Exactly.
It wasn't, when you don't want to do it, you got to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just prefer things that are more stationary. I think this is the best way to put it. Doesn't even necessarily have to be arboreal, but stuff that's just not going to tweak.
That's my problem now, is the stuff I've got now. You think it's stationary until you go to touch it, and then it's very mobile. So, good stuff though, man. Good stuff.
You get some of those called Dallas though, or those Cornuta. Oof.
I know. Oh, I know. And then, dude, this guy I follow on Instagram, he just did a trip to Kenya. He's got a bunch of Worthington Eye pictures of like different patterns, He's got one that like it's patternless, and it looks like it might be going into shed because it's kind of dull, or it might just be dirty, but like it's a patternless Worthington Eye. So like the horns are still there, the eyes are still there, and it has all those crazy ocular scales that make up the perfect circle around the eye, but the snake's basically just brown. Super cool, man. Absolutely fascinating.
Wow. That sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
There's so many, like you look at a genus like Bitis, and you look at a genus like Bothrops, and like there's so many cool species that no one knows exist.
Yeah.
Like especially the Bothrop stuff, like some of that Andean mountain.
Of course.
It's like, oh my god, like that stuff looks cooler than everything else in that genus,
Yeah. Dude, Marcus just got a pair of Urutus, and I forgot how freaking awesome they are.
They're awesome. They are
gorgeous snakes.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm not a Bothrops guy at all, but that is a species I could see myself having if I kept tropical. Dude, just like I completely forgot about them. So
there's a picture of an albino one floating around recently.
Really?
Yeah, it was. It's very reminiscent of like an albino gaboon.
Yeah, it kind of ruins it.
Just kind of ruins it a little bit.
Yeah,
it was cool, but I think the one albino in that sort of realm that really does it for me is the Dinocystrodon. Those albinos are.
I can't, man.
That's a nice albino, man.
Yeah, it's a good looking albino, but like you're taking away all of the natural beauty of that genus.
Yep.
You are. It's like that scene in Superbad. Not for me. Not for me. Well, boys, is there anything else we wanted to touch base on?
Tell me, what else can I tell you?
I know, right? We covered a lot.
I can do this all night. I can do this all night.
It's good. All night long.
Next time you guys have to come up here and we'll go herping, check out the facility I got here.
I want to get down that way bad because our buddy Harry lives down there in your area. And
Harry C?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know Harry C.
Claiborne?
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah, it's our boy, man.
I know his mom too.
That's awesome. Dude, small world, man. I'm actually kind of annoyed. I assumed Harry was going to be in the group chat tonight.
He's probably out hoeing around or something.
Yeah, he's probably on his porch enjoying a cigar, feeding his wild toads.
Pulling his hair out, trying to get those damn scarlet babies to eat. That's what he's probably doing.
Probably.
I meant to ask him when we had him on last how that was going, but I feel like I probably already know the answer. So.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him and see how his wife's Leonis are doing, man.
He said all of them, I think, but one are eating, and I think it's the one from Chris. Like everything else is rocking and rolling. So
really, because dude, she cleaned house in Daytona, man.
She did, man.
She did. Oh man.
If Katie came home with all those for me, I'd probably cry just out of pride. Like,
yeah,
you get it.
Yep.
But yeah, he's got some good spots down there. So I definitely, Jake and I have talked about making a trip down that way at some point. I think maybe when it starts to warm up next year. It was discussed, but we'll see. So
I want an invite.
Obviously.
Bring me along.
How far of a drive is that for you?
Probably like 6, almost 7.
I feel like every drive for you is like a minimum of 8.
No.
Everywhere
realistically,
you're going,
like no traffic, probably about 6.
but
Yeah.
realistically, I mean,
yeah.
The only time I've driven in Florida where there was no traffic was that night that I drove to P and Cody's after work.
Yeah, P and Cody live in the middle of freaking nowhere.
Just no, but I was like flying through Jacksonville and stuff like midnight, and there wasn't anybody out there. It was awesome.
That's pretty good. That's good.
I think it was like a record time getting down there.
Nice.
But
yeah, we got to bother Harry and force him to let us sleep on his couch.
That's right.
That's it.
Look, Kevin said he'll pick you up.
There it is. Oh man,
Yeah,
we get Kevin on that trip, dude.
Yeah, he owes me a trip. He's come up here.
That's it. We're gonna do it.
How far is Kevin from you, Phil?
I don't want to say because he'll yell at me. Like 25, 30 minutes.
Oh,
I know. He's disappointed in me because I keep telling him how we're gonna like hang out and double date and go get good Cuban food, and I'm a bad friend. Sorry, Kev.
Well, if people want to follow you, Aaron, where's the best place for them to do that?
I guess they could. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm horrible at social media. I'm horrible. I'm hoping that my daughter will take over it. Take it over one day. Katie, my girlfriend, she does a lot of it too. It's not my thing. I do the best I can to respond to messages and things, but if you want to see some beautiful eyelash vipers and follow me, Facebook is the way to do it. The Forked Tongue on Instagram, the Forked Tongue on Facebook, and just hit me up.
Good stuff, man.
Fantastic, yeah. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I tell you, I really appreciate it. I had a great time.
Yeah. This episode was brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. You need a rack, you need a cage, you need both. They got something for everybody. You won't be disappointed. 2-week lead time. Buy a rack or a cage and get it before your child graduates high school.
Get it before your child is born.
Get it before the next Olympics. Use the code THN at checkout. Save yourself 10%. If you're in the general Southeast region, and maybe if you're even close to like North Georgia, save yourself even more and just pick up direct from BlackBox. Me and Jake do it all the time. It's well worth the trip. Just more bang for your buck.
And if you don't live local and you have to ship it, it is hands down the best shipping of any enclosure I've ever received. All of them. Every single one.
Throw that stuff from a helicopter and it'd survive.
Legit. I've shipped every cage imaginable and always had an issue except for BlackBoxCages.com.
Yeah. And then Puget Sound Pythons. Give them a follow. Jeff and Kendra, awesome people.
The Kendra.
Puget Sound Pythons on Facebook and Instagram. Puget Sound Pythons on Morph Market. See what they got going on. FullVisApparel.com. Also use the code THN at checkout. Get 15% off your order. That is just for THN viewers and listeners like you. Cold-blooded caffeine as well. Use that link down below. Get some coffee. Get some stuff to make coffee. Our stuff is coming here soon. We're gonna get that ironed out and make that happen. So
most definitely.
Maybe me some more shirts, Justin.
Yeah.
Love them.
Do that.
Yeah, look at that.
I that one that I ended up that I did as like a tester. I kept that. I have that in my closet somewhere. I've been wearing.
You wear it. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a Forked Tongue shirt with the eyelash logo, but I need it to be black with neon yellow.
Couldn't be done.
That's got to happen.
I can accommodate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back Thursday for THP. I think there was talks of seeing if Middleton was available because we haven't had him on in a minute. So
Ooh, jealous.
we'll see. Jake said he was gonna hit him up and see what the availability was. So
Jealous.
we'll see. But thank you, everybody. We will see you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.